Well, the situation I think everybody's bored of talking about, but nevertheless, I'm going to try and talk about it regardless. As the title suggests, and these are thoughts I've had for a while, I'm getting pretty sick and tired of the Ross Stewart situation. I'm getting very bored of it. I'm getting very bored of hearing he wants to stay, but then not seeing a contract be signed. So these are just me spouting my thoughts on the situation and just to maybe try and provide a slightly different perspective than I've seen a lot of other people have, which is absolutely fine, by the way, for them having a different opinion, because as you know, it's opinions. I've got to respect others the same way I expect people to respect mine. But these are points that I feel like go unnoticed quite a lot among Sunderland fans. But maybe I've not, or maybe I've been looking in the wrong places. So here it goes. Anyway, let's get right into the situation. So for those of you who've been living under a rock, Ross Stewart's situation is that he has got 1 year left on his contract, which runs out next June or at the end of next June, because of a 1 year activation, 1 year extension that the club activated a few months ago. His original contract was meant to expire June 2023, but of course we've activated an extra year option on that. And of course, last season he had two massive injuries and played, I believe it was 13 games out of 46 Championship League matches. So, but yeah, in that time, he still managed to amazingly score 10 goals, and I think he might have had 13 or 14 goal contributions. So it's a tricky situation to be in, certainly for both parties. But here are a few points I wanted to get out of the way. So let's look at this. First of all, I completely understand from Stuart's perspective why he wants to have um, a good contract, because let's be honest, he wants to have long-term security. He wants to have financial security after he retires, and I totally get it. I understand why he's wanting more money, and I think that he's definitely worth more money as a player. However, there's a lot of things to counter that with. First of all, one thing I'm getting very sick of is the implication from some people, not what they've said, but the implication I get or the vibes that I get is that it's only the club that have to negotiate and Stewart doesn't have to compromise or meet in the middle, which to me is a load of rubbish. I think we keep hearing claims that Stewart absolutely wants to stay, and I'm getting sick of hearing that because, if he wants to stay that badly, then couldn't a compromise from his end be reached as much as the club's? One that maybe gives him a bit of financial security, but one that doesn't try to break the club's wage structure. And let's talk about the wage structure because there's been criticism of the wage structure, and to an extent, I understand it. Let's be honest, look, Sunderland are a massive club. We are one of the biggest clubs in the country. I stand by it. I think we should be a side in the Premier League challenging for Europe at our very best, and that's the standard we should be aiming to go towards. But let's face facts, that's going to take a hell of a long time to get there. And we have to balance how big we are with the here and now and how realistic we need to be. The wage structure for me is a pretty essential part to make sure that we don't splash a load of money on wages and risk going down the route we did before. Now, obviously, just because you go out and spend a bit more money doesn't mean you're going to go down the route Ellis Short did, which could have led to the club going bust potentially, because things honestly were that bad. But I think criticism of the wage structure in terms of calling it stupid or whatever else it is, or even just thinking it's unnecessary, I think is just nonsense in my opinion. Again, that's just my own view. I think that you've got to look at it and say those who say are putting emphasis on the wage structure isn't lacking ambition or being a happy clapper or happy with mediocrity or any of that nonsense. It's more to do with being realistic. It's more to do with actually recognizing that we can't just go out and splash loads of money at the minute because we simply don't have the finances to do it. Now, should we? If that's the case, you need to be putting fingers above Christian Speakman and put them at KLD. Really, I think I think we need to have a bit of balance and a bit of be fair in that situation. Um, Another thing that now don't get me wrong, strikers do come at a premium cost. I completely understand that. You do have to go out and splash the boat to get strikers. And again, and with keeping your better players, a lot of it comes down to what's the terms, what's the finances involved, what's the figures. If, say, for example, Jack Clark has been reportedly rumoured to be on around, was it 15, 16 grand a week, something like that? Um, the wage structure, that would suggest to me that we can surely pay Stewart that. Now, let's be brutal here. I know Stewart wants a long-term contract for security, but if you add up, let's say you give Stewart £20,000 a week, that's roughly £1 million a year. Really, let's be honest, that's £1 million a year. And if he's got another 3, 4 years, see if it was a 3 year contract with the option of another one, he's going to be a millionaire by the time he retires. And that's just till he's 31, 32. We could even go on till he's 34, 35. So, although obviously the argument is he could get he could get a career ending injury. That's more than a valid answer. But as of right now, he would be getting, if it was 20 grand a week, let's say, you're talking roughly £1 million a year. And if over a few years, surely that's enough for you to secure your long term future and financial security after you retire. I just don't understand. And again, we need to stop. I know that in football it's different, but I'm getting sick of acting like this sort of money's peanuts. It's really not. People, this is one thing that I think a lot of footballers need to realize and wake up from their bubble and say, actually, you're getting paid quite a lot of money. You can say, yes, we're not footballers, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is that's still a lot of money, and I think a lot of footballers need to realize that. Like I said, I can get why Stewart wants a good contract, but if he wants to stay, couldn't we surely agree something like £15,000 a week? And we got to bear in mind there's 2 injuries that has just happened as well. Um, I will admit one thing though: when people say that a contract's not going to be signed when he's injured, I don't agree with that because didn't wasn't Evans when Evans was injured, he signed a 1 year extension. So unless that was an option exercised in his contract, which I doubt it was, because the club wouldn't have announced it if it was, not in the way that they did, with the pictures and everything in the announcement and statement about Evans signing a new contract, then you can sign contracts when you're injured. Now that suggests to me, does Stewart want to stay badly enough to compromise? Does he want to stay badly enough to put pen to paper and sign a new deal? And again, it could be this is hypothetical, purely hypothetical, but let's say 15 grand a week, and if he makes 30 league appearances, 30 starts, you get a £250,000 bonus, something like that. Come on, surely if there's enough desire from both sides, to be fair, both sides, not just Stewart, if there's enough desire from both sides to get this deal done, then why not do something like that? I mean, unless they have done behind the scenes and we don't know it, but that's a suggestion. As far as I'm aware, they haven't done that. But again, that's just assumptions. For me, you could easily do something along those lines to try and satisfy. You need to stick to a wage structure, but also making sure you don't annoy Stewart in those negotiations. But the thing you got to remember that puts it in the club's court a lot more than what a lot of people think it does is the 2 injuries. Now, if Stewart had been fit across the whole season and scored multiple goals, then which his ratio would suggest he would have done, to be fair, um, we haven't got a leg to stand on here. The ball's firmly in Stewart's court. However, it's not. He's had 2 huge injuries. He had an injury that kept him out from September to December last year, which is 3 months, and then he had an injury at Fulham in January, which has basically kept him out until this point, and could probably keep him out for a while longer yet. We don't know the extent of the injury because Achilles injuries apparently are quite nasty. So with that in mind, I think Stewart needs to be a bit careful here what he does because you can't go around demanding too much money because you never know. Grass isn't always greener on the other side. But let's move on to the. But don't get me wrong. Again, I completely get before someone has a hissy fit in the comments and shoots back. I understand the need for him to get long-term financial security. I'm just making the argument that he could do a bit of negotiating to make sure he does get financial security. But regardless, let's move on to the other side of things. Now, please accept the fact this is from Alan Nixon from The Sun. The Sun. The Sun has got a pretty useless reputation. And a lot of journalists tend to get things wrong. But let's just entertain the idea for the sake of this discussion. Apparently, there was rumours a while back that Borough, Stoke and Southampton were the teams interested in signing Ross Stewart. And now it looks like there's apparently an interest between £7 to £10 million from Southampton. Again, that's just speculation. I have no clue how much substance there is to that rumour. But that's what's being said. And for me, while I would greatly prefer Stewart to sign a contract, a longer term contract and stay, that's my preferred option, by the way, before anyone has a go at us for it. And again, I completely get people disagreeing, but if anyone's going to be disrespectful, I'm not putting up with it because, quite frankly, you shouldn't have to. But regardless, if an offer of £7 to £10 million came in, and Stewart's looking less and less likely to sign a contract, which I believe is the case now, I believe that there's a good chance Stewart, well, in a year's time anyway, Stewart will not be here, or if not sooner, if we decide to cash in. As much as people won't like the idea of him going to a championship rival, and I completely agree, I'm in that camp. Even if we sold him to Southampton, I wouldn't particularly want him to sell him to a championship club. But here's the thing I want to put on the table here. There's a few things that people don't seem to be failing to consider. People have argued Stewart guarantees goals. Now, yes, when he's played, he gets goals. First of all, though, where's the guarantee he stays fit? Where's the guarantee he even comes back the same player? Because we don't know. Achilles apparently is a nasty injury. And thirdly, and this is the crucial bit, even with Stewart staying, where's the guarantee we get promoted? So let's say he stays. But he doesn't sign a contract. He's going to leave for free next summer, which could still happen. And then we don't get promoted. He leaves for free when we could have got a fee for him and used that to get another striker who we could tie down long term. For me, that's long term thinking. You can't just think just the next window and not after that. You've got to look at longevity. You've got, and this is one of the things that I do stubbornly defend Speakman and Harvey for, and rightly so in my opinion. You can criticize them where it's fair. I've always maintained that, but let's open our eyes a little bit. These guys do tend to think longer term, and I think for me, if an offer of say £7 to £10 million, because I believe it goes to 10, the offer would apparently go to 10 if Southampton get promoted. So take that off the table. Say it's 7, and again that might be in instalments. But if it's £7 million, that could get you a good Championship striker, or should be more than enough to get you at least one good striker for this level. And for me, that's if you tie that striker down to a longer term contract, then for me that's worth selling Stewart for, because you're then replacing him, you're getting the option to cover him, and you're covering him for a longer term period of time. Because if, say, Stewart doesn't sign a contract and he goes next summer for free, you're not getting any money and you're back to square one. You're in a harder position to try and sign another striker for bigger money for this level. That might not have made any sense, but I'm just trying to put that out there. So even if Stewart stays, where's the guarantee we go up anyway? Because he might not stay fit and he might not be the same player. And if we miss out on, and therefore we've missed out on a fee. And another point to remember is how well we did last season. Now, I know Exiled Mackham has put this, and by the way, just go and subscribe to his channel if you want, but he pointed out last season Sunderland were an unknown quantity, and I kind of wanted to respond to that. Yes, we were an unknown quantity with coming up. However, it should have become very evident from the end of last season how Sunderland played. It should have become very evident for teams to stop Sunderland playing. Now, could it not be we were just a good side? It doesn't necessarily because we're unknown quantity. We didn't finish 6th by accident. We finished there because we deserved to finish there. And to be fair to him, he admitted this. We did do very well. But I would argue Ahmad is a loss. I will admit that. Ahmad is a loss, and that does need sorting. However, you still got Clark there. You still got Roberts there. You got Semedo there. Yes, he's unproven, but again, we don't know if he's not good enough if we don't play him. Neil we've got there. We've got Ekwa there. Basically, you've got most of the core from last season there. And bear in mind, last season we were missing a host of players. And these players, we could have those players on the books this season. We don't know. But just because we're going to be more known this season doesn't mean we won't be any good. And I think we need to sort of remember that. I think that this season we still have the core there. And I do believe this recruitment team will get the players in necessary to sort of, help us, to sort of help the squad out. Sorry, my laptop's going off there. But to help the squad out. Because for me, Christian Speakman alluded to the fact he implied we want top 2. But for me, I don't think we were going to get top 2 anyway, because I think the league is that competitive that it's difficult. And I know people argue that's a reason to keep Stewart, and I get that. But again, even if he stays, he might not be fit, same player, or we miss out on a fee. And we could get a player who is going to be more fit, who could have a better chance of being fit. Look, I've rambled on. I'm going to end it there. But with the Ross Stewart thing, look, I completely get if people want to keep Stewart. I want to keep Stewart. But I'm getting fed up, to be honest. I'm getting fed up of hearing he wants to stay. I'm fed up of this saga dragging on. I'm fed up of people implying that it's only the club that has to negotiate and not the player as well. I'm getting bored of it all, to be honest. And as much as I really don't want to sell it to a Championship rival, least of all to Alex Neil, but as much as I don't want to sell it to a Championship rival, if it helped us get a striker that's going to be here on a longer term contract and help us for the future, then yeah, I think I probably would take it at this point. So that might be an unpopular opinion. I don't know. If you disagree, then as long as you're respectful about it, I have absolutely no qualms with it. But I will address it though. If the striker thing is not resolved by Speakman and Harvey at the end of this window, and I'm talking at least 3 strikers on the books at Sunderland, whether that's with Stewart here or not here, then they deserve every bit of criticism they get, because that's the same thing that's happened for 3 windows now since going up to the Championship, and it isn't good enough. But there you have it. So what do you guys think? That's my thoughts on the Ross Stewart saga. I've wanted to vent these feelings out for quite a while, and maybe just provide a different perspective from what a lot of people are saying. Very quickly, one thing I will touch upon, and it's very brief. Exile Mackham did this, and he spoke about it, and he's bang on with this point. And mad mistake. Go and subscribe to both channels, by the way. They're very good YouTubers. But both of these YouTubers mention this point, and it won't just be them. There'll be loads of people. The off-the-pitch stuff and the ticketing situation and the administration side of things and the commercial and marketing side of things, that's a farce. That's got to be resolved. I'm getting fed up of hearing how you just go and look at the queues in the midweek, man. Go and look at the queues at the ticket office on Wednesday when people who had difficulties with going digital wanted a card. Now, come on. So my message to this is for KLD in particular. He won't be watching this, but there's a few things. You either need to demand much better improvements from Steve Davison, and until I see evidence otherwise, I believe Steve Davison is the root of these problems, because he doesn't seem like he's trying hard enough to fix some of these issues, you either need to demand a better standard, or you need to get rid of him and get someone in who's much better than him at this. Because whether it be Steve Davison's older and he can't do whatever it is, I don't know. Whatever the reason is, he needs to go. He either needs to improve considerably or he needs to go. Not just say he looks into stuff and then not actually do anything about it. For me, this commercial ticket insider thing, or off the pitch stuff, is a farce. It's a joke. Roker Report put it out there. Excellent podcast. Go and listen to it. The last 20 minutes of their podcast, I think, just touches it much better and more coherently than I'm doing here. And again, XR Mackham, my mistake. They both said it much better than I did. But something has to be done about that. With regards to the off the pitch stuff, questions have got to keep getting asked. This is a massive club. We've got a massive fan base. Don't let anyone fool you in thinking we're not massive, because we are. And for me, we have to demand better standards off the pitch. And on the pitch, of course, but on the pitch, there's at least reason to suggest improvement is being made there considerably over the last couple of years. Whereas with off the pitch, we're still ran like we're in League One, for goodness sake. And I completely get when we win League One and coming out of a pandemic that we're not going to, what's the word I'm looking for? Spend as much and get more resources in these departments. I understand it then. I don't understand it now. Not when we're in the Championship trying and aiming and claiming to want to go up to the Premier League. We've got to have better standards. Even the simple thing is not having the kits ready for blooming Father's Day, man. They've missed out on such a massive amount of potential revenue there. I've rambled on enough, but just go and watch the other guys, because we need to keep to Exile Mackham, to my mistake, to Oak Report, whoever it is, keep doing what you're doing as far as the off the pitch stuff's concerned. Keep on asking the questions, because it's very valid and it's very fair, and it's about time someone's held to account properly for it. Anyway, guys, that's my ramble completely done. What are your thoughts on the ticket on the off the pitch stuff? What's your thoughts on the Ross Stewart saga? Again, be respectful about it, because otherwise it won't be tolerated. But yeah. Anyway, as you guys know, trying to get a 5k subs. I mentioned this loads of times. Trying to get a 5k subs. If you think I've earned a subscription from you, hit the like button and subscribe. That'd be really appreciated. And I think around half of the people who watch, according to my analytics, are not subscribed. So that would mean a lot. Anyway, guys, I will love you and leave you there. Apologies, it's a long, rambling, tedious video probably. But take care of yourselves. Likewise, stay safe. And as always, with the lads.